It's like a bad VR roller coaster thing. Yeah. You can still see the sides. So, yeah. So, but the video itself, he did it pretty quick. I mean, and he did it in front of the camera. So obviously, we didn't show you taking it off the toe, and you don't actually have to take it off the tire changer. You can do it on the tire changer. But anyway,
you don't have any of those tire changer videos don't have sound.
No, they should all have sound.
But it doesn't. On the ones that don't have sound, it doesn't let you get the feedback on it, so you can tell you that it doesn't have sound.
Interesting. Well, tell you what. Do me this. The next time you find a video that doesn't have sound, take a screenshot of the main page, right, so I can see what you're doing, and then send it to me on your business email, and I'll get right on it. I would like to know that. So if you find one, that is important.
You'll never know.
So yeah, you'll never know. Okay. Okay. So 2 Road Force Elites, because we have 5 to 6 to 7 years. Technically, if you want to go all the way back to Road Force touches, we have 10 years of this balancer being out in the wild. Okay. We have We have 1 Road Force walk away with the arm. Okay. So let me double check something just real quick. All right, that one looks good. All right. That Road Force Elite, if you don't want to use that as a Road Force, all you have to do is put the X on the tire. And when you put the X on the tire, yeah, so don't hit that. Just hit I'm done. Yeah, I'm done. Okay, so if you put touch the load roller. All right, now there's an X, okay? So basically by putting the X on the load roller, you have turned that into what we call a Smart Weight Elite. So rather than just having, because we used to just have a Smart Weight Elite over there, and then we only had like 2 Road Force balancers. And then when you get a big group in, you only have 2 Road Force balancers. So we were like, because I can turn this into a Smart Weight Elite also. But rather than only having 2 Road Force balancers, now when we have a big group, we can have 3 Road Force balancers. And if you want to have what it feels like to have a non-Road Force balancer, again, you just hit the X on the machine. The load roller never comes down because the Elite still has the cameras. The only other thing the Smart Weight Elite doesn't have is it doesn't have the air function to air up the tire. Okay? But you can turn that into a Smart Weight Elite. You can turn that into a Road Force Elite. Again, it's the same. One has the load roller, one doesn't. Okay. All right. So for you guys, if the big question maybe for you guys, other than why is that so far over? Well, you know that's because we pulled the tire changer out of here. So we'll just have to snatch that over a little to the left. Any of our older Road Force balancers, you had to have a minimum of like 15 or 20 psi on the tire. When you hook the hose up to the tire, if it didn't see enough air pressure, it didn't trigger the logic, or who wrote the program, it didn't trigger the program that you needed to put more air in it. It would just say that there wasn't enough air in it to satisfy whether I needed to take air out or put air in. Okay. With the advent of the Road Force walkaway, again, you can take a tire that's not even seated on the beads. But now, if you have one of those tires that's at the bottom of the stack that's been in East Texas heat for 100 years, and it's not going to air that tire up. But if you have a regular tire, and again, we have this 85% number that I'm sure can be backed by a scientific study somewhere, that 85% of the tires you can take over to the Road Force walkaway, and 85% of the tires, they're springy enough or they're bouncy enough that the tires are actually touching the safety humps and that it will inflate on the balancer. Okay, since I'm being recorded, on the Road Force walkaway, even if you have the tires set at 32, the Road Force walkaway can put up to 40 pounds of air in the tire to get the beads to seat. And then once it sees that the beads are seated, it will automatically back the air pressure back down to the requisite 32 or 35 that you're asking to put in the tire. And that's where we get the walk away from. You can walk away rather than just, standing there watching the tire changer, put air in the tire. You can just put it over here and forget about it. And then the other good news is, because when you put it on the road force walk away, you have the hood down. The inflation hose now auto retracts. And since the hood is down, we are in a safe position to where we can start to rotate and balance the tire. So we'll go, since it's already down, we're gonna turn the tire either counterclockwise or clockwise, depending on if you have straight track turned on or if you just have road force turned on. And then the last thing we can do, all of these balancers, since road force touches, have an auto hood to where the hood automatically opens up, and the wheel will turn so that the inside weight is either at 12 o'clock for a clip-on, or it used to be 6 o'clock for a stick-on. But now with the advent of calendars, it's actually a little bit off of 6 o'clock, because the camera is now not centered on the spindle anymore, but the camera is offset. So someone over in the zeros and ones department had to take and make the offset so that when we stop the tire about 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock, depending on which way you look at it, so that it shines the laser out. Okay. As far as functionality as to how the balancer works after it inflates the tire, it works exactly the same. It's going to rotate the tire, and then if you're doing straight track, it'll keep the load roller on it, and then it'll spin it the other way, because we don't know which way the directional arrow is going, right? So we have to measure tire pull in both directions. So straight track equals tire pull. We have someone who stays up way too late on Thursday nights and names stuff. Usually it's never a good thing. Like no one knows what straight track means. It's like an insider secret. But straight track means that the car is tracking straight because the tire is not pulling the car one way or pulling the car the other way. It's the best I got. I didn't name it. I just have to, So anyway, that's why we have straight. The reason we came out with straight track is because warranty clerks want to take back the money for you rotating the tires left to right. So if we have a balancer that has a printer on it, and you can print out that the tire was on the right front and it has a 7-pound pull to the right, but then you switched it over to the left side, and that 7-pound pull went down to a 1-pound pull, and now the car tracks straight again, you could get paid for warranty diagnostics. On the sales side of things, David Henry and the sales team, they don't even refer to this as a balancer anymore. They refer to these things as diagnostic tools, because it will help you diagnose, and Will next week, Will may actually refer to this as a diagnostic tool also, because it helps you diagnose vibration issues. Okay? So, the other thing we have, I don't know, I don't think we sell the HNs in Tobago. Trinidad, I'm sorry, no, Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago. It's Trinidad though, right? Trinidad. Okay. I don't think we sell HNs in Trinidad.
I think I would be in charge of, I want some copy, but I might be in charge of, actually, this is actually true.
Yeah.
Not just in charge of Trinidad, I'm in charge of all the islands after US Virgin Islands.
Oh, very cool.
So a place called French Guiana.
Okay, I've heard of French Guiana.
Do you know anybody up?
I never met anyone from there, but I used to be able to find it on a map when I was in high school. It's been a long time since I was asked to find it on a map. It must be terrible living in Caribbean islands, having to take a boat from island to island to island. I mean, there's the sheer amount of pain we inflict on you from having to be there. It must be awful.
But you see, there's nice. There are a lot of like dolphins and blue marlins, and if you like fishing,
Yeah.
you'll like sailing the Caribbean.
Okay. Yes. Is it Eastern or Western Caribbean? Eastern Caribbean. Okay, so you're out sort of towards the Atlantic. Okay.
If you like beaches, you might like the Caribbean.
No, I'm good.
We have snow.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, that's about it.
So call me and I'll fly out.
Do you think you have a lot?
Smart weight HNs. Smart weight HNs. The HN stands for hybrid. It's a hybrid balancer that we sell to national accounts. Okay, so what we do is we take the smart. So we don't sell smart weight touches anymore, but this is one of the few balancers that still have arms. Okay, I used to up until about a year and a half ago. I forgot that it was really important that you guys actually use a balancer with arms on it, because all of our new balancers don't have any arms on it. And unfortunately, I was sending out brand new service technicians that didn't know how to use a balancer with arms. So we keep this one in here sort of as like a throwback to the good old days when men were men and sheep were nervous. Okay, so make sure if you don't know how to use a balancer with arms that you use this balancer. There's probably 30 years worth of balancers out there that have arms on it. So you're going to have to learn how to use it, okay? So the hybrid takes all of the good parts of the SmartWeight Touch. It has the big motor, it has the big belt, it has the big DC drive. Where you at? DC drive. Now you can say, Jesse, now you can say DC voltage because it has a DC. AC drives in brake lathes and tire changers, DC drives in balancers, okay? So it has the good part of the SmartWeight Touch on the bottom. The top part of it has the wheel input of the SmartWeight Pro. So we took two balancers, we fused them together. That's why it's called a hybrid balancer, okay? The Hunter SmartWeight Pro, they told me I can't say anything negative about the Hunter SmartWeight Pro. So what I tell you about the SmartWeight Pro is that's where our balancer lineup begins.
That's the low end of what you say the bottom?
The SmartWeight Touch, because if it has the same arms, it has the same spindle. The SmartWeight Pro, because we can sell that SmartWeight Pro without the hood on it, because we can sell it in 110 configuration. For those of guys who like to take it to the racetrack, like if they're doing a half-mile dirt or 3/8 mile asphalt oval, they like to sometimes you may have a flat, you may have to balance the tire. So the SmartWeight Pro you can do on 110, and to make it smaller to fit on a trailer, you can sell it without the hood. So since we sell it without the hood, that balancer over there spins only at 150 RPM instead of 300 RPM. Because somehow spinning it half as slow means you don't die half as fast. I'm not. Somehow the safety OSHA people allow us to do that because of RPMs and spinning rotation. Okay, so
You have a place called Nelson Legends. It's kind of like you're not a professional racer, you can go on this professional track. You can bring your car, they give you that little training, and you go out and have fun. There's a guy that goes in his trailer with a tire balancer and a mounter. I'm sure he makes bank. I don't know what he charges, but I'm sure he's making some serious cash.
I'm sure because people are it's crashing out. Okay. That balancer in the corner, if you notice on the front of that balancer, it says traditional balancer. Okay. That balancer is the last vestige of go ahead and flip that back over for me. Flip it all the way over. All the way over. Keep going. Thank you. All right. That was very harmonious of you. That balancer there is that I think that one's actually called like a DP05. I'd have to look at the tag on it, but that balancer right there, the reason we call that a traditional balancer is because any balancer that has a screen incorporates something that we call SmartWeight. And it's going to take me about 20 minutes to explain SmartWeight, but I'm going to explain SmartWeight to you, okay? So that is a traditional balancer. The reason we keep that traditional balancer is that balancer uses all of the same technology that all of our competitors still use to this day, because SmartWeight technology is still copyright protected, and we're really good at writing the copyright. So no one else can use our SmartWeight technology. They all have to use the same technology that is built into that machine.
But
Okay.
I have seen, I saw one or two companies with that same GSP balancing thing.
Yeah, DSP just stands for digital signal processing. It's basically just a chiclet. Coates has a balancer that has the little
DSP.
LED chiclets, and like I said, the word DSP balancing just is, like I said, it just means that there's digital signal processors. Basically, there's a computer. So Coates has it, Snap-on has it, Bosch has it. They all have DSP stuff. It's basically all just little chiclets. When you light that thing up, it'll look like a Christmas tree, and it'll just have the LEDs. Do me a favor, take that and bring that out here. Since that tire is too heavy for me, and I didn't find an Aleve last night, I only found one this morning. Two people pick up that tire because I don't want to hurt anyone. Put it on here. Okay. For those of you who know what a J.C. Whitney catalog is, you can buy this. This is called a bubble balancer, and the balancer has a bubble in the middle. Okay, and there is the bubble, and this thing is still moving around just a hair, so I'm going to try to get it to stop without touching it. Okay, all right, so the bubble. So if you notice, the bubble is a little over here, and if you notice, there's some weights right there. So what I need to do is I need to find out how much more weight. So technically I needed to go, technically it's counterbalanced too much. I need to make that side heavy or take this side off, because if I make that side heavy, it goes into the middle. So if I take this side off, can I take this? Oh, look at that. Oh, it's just barely stuck on. Okay, let's see what happens now.
It's perfect.
Hey, look at that.
With zero weight, it is perfect.
I love it. Okay, so as a tire tech, I don't know if you guys ever did it, but when I was a tire tech, I would always throw the tires on the balancer first and lower the hood to see if I got lucky. Right? Because if it came up with 0, 0, it was like taking it back to the car. You know, I was always so happy when all right, so a bubble balancer. A bubble balancer, this tire, believe it or not, is balanced. Well, there's no weights on it, you know. Maybe we got some. Anyway. So, for you guys that don't know anything about balancing, there are two different forces in balance. Well, technically, there's three different forces in balancing it. No, there's two different forces in balancing a tire, which is why we call road force the third, like the third leg of the bar stool. Okay. A tire can, you have static, which just goes up and down. Okay. Now, some people, we in the last 2 to 4 years have stopped using the term dynamic, and we have started to use the term couple. Okay. Because a couple incorporates not only static, but we used to call it static and we used to call it dynamic, where the tire had a shimmy. For some reason, we don't call it dynamic anymore. We call it a couple force because it takes up and down and left to right. So we're coupling or adding forces together. However, 99% of the people that you're going to talk to on the street still know static and dynamic. Okay? So this tire is balanced statically. Okay? So static is up and down. So if we took this tire and we put it on a balancer, hopefully, it'll call for 0 amount of weight statically. Okay, it may need some for the shimmy or the couple, but usually static only takes 1 weight. Anywhere on the tire, you can put 1 weight because all you're trying to do is keep it from going up and down. Usually a couple or a dynamic force, you need 2 weights, because it's moving in 2 different directions. Watch, I can do that without saying anything. Okay, so it usually moves in 2 different directions, so you need 2 different weights to offset what's going on the tire. Okay, so this is how we used to balance tires. All the way up to the very first balancer, which we came out with in, if I remember my wall of fame, 70s or the 80s, we came out with the Series 700, and we finally started to do dynamic or couple balancing. Okay, It took us all the way to the late 80s, early 90s before we could balance a tire vertically. All of the tires were balanced horizontally. They tell me to this day that airplane tires are still balanced this way and not this way. They also have nitrogen in them instead of air because they're going up and down and do that. I don't know the reasoning behind balancing them this way. Maybe they're too heavy because that airplane tire is a very big freaking tire. Maybe they don't have to care about couple. They just have to care about static, so they can put it on a balancer and just spin it around. And they can get the static.
No, it's very strict.
Oh, it has to be. I can't imagine.
There's only certain people on a base that just, you know what I mean, that mess with airplanes are allowed to mess with tires.
So, but yeah, and I've heard that, and I'm glad he's here because they still bounce them this way. Nitrogen, because in an airplane, obviously, if it was oxygen, then the tires would expand and contract, and then they'd explode, and then we'd be losing airplanes, and then that'd be really bad. So,
How much of oxygen is nitrogen?
70.
77, 78% nitrogen. It's the other 20% that'll get you there. Yeah.
Does it
Our atmosphere is 70%
rule
nitrogen.
in that? Does that 20% or almost 25% of
Yeah, like 22.
Colder climates like in Ohio.
will it impact that airplane tire?
Oh, absolutely. It'll cause it to explode. Yeah, it'll cause it to.
Really popular in cold climates. Like people get nitrogen in their tires, so they don't have to. You know, the guy's like, I just got these new tires 5 months ago. How come they're low?
It's normally 1 PSI for every 10 degrees. It's like the oxygen that they make on the plane for you to breathe, right? Because it's an enclosed thing. It comes from liquid oxygen. They don't put compressed.
Yeah. Because you're at 35,000 feet. I don't know if you guys ever looked at the outside temperature at night. It's like minus 60, right? So minus 60 with regular air, that'd be bad. That'd be bad, right? So, anyway, so this tire is actually balanced statically. Okay. I guess I'm just gonna go right into smart weight before, and then after a little bit, you guys will just play around with balancers.
One question.
Mhm.
Have you ever tried our equipment with a tire filled with nitrogen versus a tire filled with regular oxygen? Did it impact our equipment?
Well, it doesn't actually. So, okay. So I'm going to get in trouble because I'm going to tell you that air doesn't weigh anything. Has anyone ever balanced a tire that has no air in it? You can still balance a tire with no air in it because when you do put air in it, oxygen weighs like this much, right? So when you get the really smart guys in here, they'll go, oxygen actually has a real weight. Whatever. This is my whatever. Okay. Oxygen weighs like this much. So it's not because we're rounding. Like we have for those of you, again, we have something that's called a blind and something that's called a round. Okay. So the round, we round to a quarter, right? Because you can't find a 0.35 weight, right? It's 25, 50, 75, 100, blah, 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 blah. We also have something that's called a blind. And when dynamic or couple forces get below like 0.29, we just say it's zero because you're just going to be putting weights on. The thing's going to look like a smiley weight on a Jeep wheel, right? You're going to have weights from 3 o'clock from 3 o'clock all the way to 9 o'clock, right? It's going to be one long smile trying to get it done. So we have blinds and we have rounds. Okay. There is a way, if there is a little thing that looks like an inspector's glass or a magnifying glass. If you click on the magnifying glass, it will take the blind off, and then you can see that the tire is actually asking for like 0.38 of an ounce of weight. Well, I guess you could take a half and try to shave it down to 0.38 from 0.50, but you know, I don't think I've met anyone that can feel 0.12 of an ounce being out of balance. So that's why we have the rounds. And again, the blind is in there only because you'd never get done balancing the tire, right? You'd just be constantly adding and taking off weight and shaving weight. So we have to have some guidelines, okay? So we have blinds and rounds. On a traditional balancer like Steve was videoing earlier, And now everyone in the video now is going to throw up because Steve just went like this, and everyone's going to be very motion sickness. So,
Will these machines keep people from freaking counterweighting tires?
we try. They make better idiots all the time though. So, all right. So to his point, don't turn around. A traditional balancer, or our competition's balancers, because they don't have smart weight. A traditional balancer looks at a tire, and it looks at the inner plane and it looks at the outer plane, right? Because when you're putting, so I'm going to stand right here. So a traditional balancer cuts the tire in half, because you can put weight on the inside of the tire and you can put weight on the outside of the tire. So that particular balancer and all of our competition takes this tire wheel assembly, cuts it in half. It figures out a solution for this side, and it figures out a solution for this side. I don't know, for those of you who had a traditional balancer, most people with a traditional balancer got tired of putting two weights on only for it to call for more weight. So a lot of people, they would put the inside weight on first and respin it, because a lot of the time, because of the couple forces, it would change how much weight went on the outside. So rather than balancing it up, lowering the hood only for it to ask you for more weight, they spun it up, put the weight on here, spun it a second time, and got the newly reformulated weight for the outside. And then when they added the outside weight and they lowered the hood, it actually came up with 0 and 0. Okay. Normally that extra little bit of weight that because if you put the weight on and the weight on and it called for more weight, what we call that is we call it residual static imbalance. Okay, so that was a lot of residual static. Okay, that's why it asked you for that weight. Okay, so the other thing that happens on a traditional balancer is the traditional balancer looks at static balancing and couple or dynamic balancing in a 1-to-1 ratio. Okay, so how many people know when? So let's do it this way. When do you normally feel a static imbalance? Highway speeds are sometimes, if your tire's bad enough, you'll feel it somewhere between like 38 and 45, and then it'll come back around somewhere in the 70s, right? So then you either have to do 68, which is too slow, or you got to do 74, which is too fast, and you're trying to do 72, and the whole thing's just shaking because you hate your tires. So a static imbalance usually comes around there. When do you normally feel a couple or a sideways of the motion where the tire is literally moving side to side? Right, I'm gonna go even lower than that. I'm gonna say parking lot speeds. Right, when you're driving, when you're circling Hobby Lobby because the wife's in there, and you can actually feel the back end of your car. That's because the tires are actually moving back and forth. Anything over about 30 miles an hour, the car is moving so fast that way that you don't even feel the tire anymore. The tire is basically slipping on the asphalt back and forth, but you don't feel that anymore because the back end of the car can't keep up with the shimmy. So the back end of the car is now planted, and the tires are sort of just scrubbing themselves as they go down the road. Because of that, we learned, I don't know who did this, but the guy's a genius. When we came up with smart weight, we now look at static balancing 4 times more important than couple balancing, which is how a lot of the times it's going to ask us, or we can do a single weight placement. And if you notice, this is our static and that's our couple, okay? The red lines here, they're called a threshold. So if you notice, our static threshold is held to a much tighter tolerance than our couple threshold, okay? Because again, the only time you're going to feel that's in the Walmart parking lot, unless you're in, Detroit, and then you don't go that slow anyway, right? Anyway, so that's why we have different threshold levels, okay, inside of smart weight. So There's a couple of things that traditional balance, again, it takes and it looks at both halves of these tires as two separate events, and then it looks at couple and dynamic or couple and static equally. Okay, all right. The last thing, you thought it was going to support you too, didn't it? Yeah. You can only buy those in Denmark. That is the only place on the planet that sells those is Denmark. And those things are really cool because when you put a wheel on it, it drops down and it drops. Those are slick. They're obviously really expensive because of tariffs now, but should have bought them before. Okay. Hi.
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 A bunch of crap showed up.
Awesome.
Reports.
Yes.
None of it's marked. I don't believe it's ours. Oh, are you recording? Sorry.
That's all right. Cut me, Mick. Hit me. All right. Thank you. Yeah, you got it. All right.
Smart weight.
Smart weight. Static, dynamic. To Brandon's question about counterbalancing, I have two different planes. I have an inner plane again, and I have an outer plane. If I have a 1 ounce weight on the inside at 6 o'clock, and I have a 1 ounce weight on the outside at 12 o'clock, what is that 2 ounces of weight doing for the balance of that assembly?
Dynamic balance.
Close.
Cancel.
It's canceling. So say that a different way. More negative.
More negative?
Yeah.
It's fucking canceling.
I didn't say New York way. Maybe he understood it that way. It's doing absolutely nothing for the balance of that tire. Because I have planes and I'm down and I'm high. They're going opposite of each other at all times. Okay, but for a traditional balancer that doesn't understand that this is one tire and it says, okay, I need an ounce here and an ounce here, I'm going to put those two 1 ounce things on because it satisfies the inside and it satisfies the outside. However, that balancer isn't smart enough to understand that they cancel each other out. So that's why we have these numbers down here. Smart weight savings. We've saved $109 by not. Man, I didn't know you could do it that many times. I learned something today. So where we save the dealer principal or he's above the fixed op. Where we save the fixed op manager money is we say that lead weight is worth X amount of dollars, and somewhere in a sub menu you can actually change how much the weight costs per ounce. You'd have to go in there every time the thing changes ounces. So we just leave it alone. This is close enough for government work. But we have a dollar amount assigned to that weight. And because we're saving that customer 2 ounces of weight, every time the balancer doesn't put that weight on, it shows up here. All right, when you go into a discount tire, that number, I've one discount tire, that number was $60,000. Which means it paid for the balancer in weight that they didn't use 4 times over the cost of the original balancer. Now, if you're in a mom and pop shop, it's not going to be that much, but if you're at a Les Schwab, it's going to be a decent amount of money. Right? So that goes into what we call the ROI because you're not spending the money on that. That weight doesn't go on that tire. It can go on the next tire. It can go on the next car. So we're saving the dealership from buying as much weights. Okay? Again, the traditional balancer doesn't understand that it is one big giant tire. It sees 2 halves. Okay. So except for you're too young. Everyone else should have gone in because you had an envelope that you didn't know how much postage it would take for you to mail it from here to there. So you would have to take it to the post office, and the post office would weigh it. And then when the post office weighed it, you said you needed 73 cents of postage rather than 28, and whatever a stamp is. Now, stamp used to, back in my day, stamps were 15 cents. I think stamps are up to like 48 cents. I don't know what a lifetime forever stamp is anymore. But, so you had two choices. You could either put on 3 stamps and figure you were safe, and then if it didn't come back to you, you had enough postage on it, but you probably overpaid for postage. Or you could go down to the post office, see if you were on the wall, see if you made the most, you could see if you were on the wall, or maybe someone you knew was on the wall, and then they would very politely weigh it, and then they would tell you exactly how much weight that particular thing needed to be mailed. I did not come up with that. The late, great Doug Felt came up with that, and it is so, I always try to give him credit when I can, because that's like, most people, like, it clicks for them when I say that. Okay, so smart weight. Smart weight is smart because it weighs the tire. And what we figured out is tires, it's again, I'm going to use like the cheerleaders megaphone thing. If you have a 15x5 tire, an old 195, 70-15 that came out in the 60s, where every bias ply tire was the same tire, that's at the small end of the megaphone. Then you have like a 28 or a 30-inch tire wheel, that's all the way at the big end of the megaphone where your voice comes out. All right, everything in between there falls everywhere in between there. So if I have a tire that came off of a Mini Cooper, it's going to weigh a lot less than that tire came off of some type of Chevy or Dodge. I don't know what that came off of. It looks like a Dodge product. I don't know. If I have a 2500 series Silverado, that tire is going to weigh like 110 pounds. If I have a Honda S2000 or a BMW M3, they're going to weigh a lot less. So depending on how much it weighs, I know how much weight it's going to take, because some smart guy figured that out, not me. Okay. The other thing we figured out is diameters. Diameters also affect it. If I have a little Honda S2000, if I put a 1/4 ounce of weight on a little Honda S2000 wheel, it's going to really affect it. If I take a 1/4 ounce of weight and I put it on a tire that goes on an F250, it's not going to make a difference if I put that 1/4 ounce weight on or not. I don't care who tells you they're going to feel it. They're lying. They're not going to feel it. So I now have a sliding scale of how much weight I have, depending on how big a diameter and how much the thing weighs. So here's my next trick question. How do I weigh this assembly? Because I weigh every assembly on every smart weight balancer that we've produced since, 13 years ago. You are very smart. But there's a second component. I can measure the current, but what am I missing in that component? Time. Right? So I need to know how much. So what I do is, when I balance the tire, the first 90 degrees, how long does it take the tire to go from here to here, and how many amps does it take for me to do that? If I put on 3 amps and it goes in like a second, that's a really small, light tire. If I have to put 6 amps and it takes 2 seconds, right? So 6 amps in 2 seconds, that's a much bigger, heavier tire, because I had to give it way more oomph, and it took a little bit extra to get from here to here. Okay? This tire here is already a pretty freaking heavy, big tire. So let me do it this way. I'm just going to take this off, because I just want to do this. So let me see if I can do this. All right. So we're going to take this down. Okay. And we'll talk about everything that it's doing in a second. What I want you to notice is and of course it's high exposure. Okay. So there's my threshold. My threshold for static is really low. My static for dynamic is actually quite higher. All right. If you're going to do this, Jesse's not allowed. Okay. We're going to put this on the tire, and I'm going to see if I can make this tire weigh more. Okay. So what I'm hoping to do is, I'm hoping to take that static threshold and move it up a lot. Okay, let's see what happens. It works, no, okay. It works better if I have a really small tire and then I make it way more. Like, yeah, like that tire over there, okay? So what I can do is I can trick the, let's see if I can do it on this one. So if I do this and I do this. So. Maybe it's just the tire.
Well, as you can see right here, that whole thing.
That's an optical illusion. That spindle is perfect. It has to be. I'm making the balancer think that the tire weighs more. Hopefully my dynamic went up a lot. Okay. Again, my static, I look at my static 4 times as much as I do my dynamic. So even though the tire weighs less or weighs more, I'm still really looking at static because everyone can feel up and down. But because I made the tire weigh more, I moved my threshold for what I needed for my dynamic, because this is going to go on a much bigger tire truck, right? So now all of a sudden this isn't going on an EV Mustang. It's going on an F-250 truck. So the truck's not going to feel the couple force as much as the Mustang is going to feel. So I can move my dynamic threshold up a bit because I don't need to focus on the couple or the dynamic as much because of the vehicle that it's going on. And I can do that because by putting the weight hammer here, I tricked the machine into thinking it took more amperage to make it move the same amount in 90 degrees. Because if you notice, once it started to spin, I let it go because I had to get it to spin up. But I can prove to you that smart weight is working by showing you that my thresholds are changing depending on the weight. Now, obviously, that thing already weighed a ton, and making it weigh more didn't work. So yeah, so thankfully I had an electric Mustang wheel, and it was able to do that. All right.
It's a Cadillac.
Well, I just told it was a Cadillac, but yeah, it's just whatever it is. That just didn't go on a Cadillac. So it weighs the tire, and now it's only putting on the amount of weight that tire needs, rather than putting like 2 ounces on it. Maybe I can only put 1.5 ounces on it, and it'll bring my, if you notice, it's still a 1/2 ounce. It was a 1/2 ounce before, because again, I'm looking at static 4 times as much as I am the dynamic portion of it, or the couple, which is why it tells me that I can put on a 1/2 ounce, but I only need 1 weight placement, right? Because again, couple normally, static, I can put the weight anywhere I want to. However, if I put it's like 2 kids on a seesaw. If the 2 kids on the seesaw weigh the same, they're balanced. So I have to be careful with my 1/2 ounce weight. If I put it too close to this edge or too close to this edge, I can actually induce a couple force, which is why it's asking for the static more towards the middle of the tire. Where's my actual thing beeping? Oh, it doesn't. All right, it actually wants it way over here. Okay, so another thing that happens, see, I got sucked into that. I read the screen, and the screen says place it in the middle. The screen doesn't actually say place it in the middle. The screen's just telling me that I found a single weight placement solution. Okay. The other thing it's trying to tell me, if you actually look at the green icon of the weight, the green icon of the weight is actually way out towards the edge of the rim. Okay. Most people don't realize that this rim and that depiction is an actual depiction of where they wanted the weight to go. The other interesting thing with that is it's hard to quantify exactly where it wants that weight. So what we figured out is since we have a camera that's shooting out LEDs, rather than shooting out LEDs all the way across the barrel of the rim, now it's only shooting out one singular LED. And that one singular LED is telling me to put the weight exactly left to right and front to back on that dot. And by putting the weight exactly left to right and front to back on the dot, here, see if you can see it. It's not gonna slip. And that tire's so freaking slick it won't stay. Fine, I'll have to undo it. So if I put this thing down, it's asking for the weight literally in the middle of the middle of the dot in the weight. And that way I know I am left to right and front to back. Let's just say it asks for 1.5 ounces instead of 1/2 ounce. So I would have to take my 1.5 ounces and figure out where the middle of 1.5 ounces was, and then also this way, okay? So now this is going to make me look like a fool because I'm going to be dumb enough to respin this while I'm being videoed and audioed, and it's probably not going to come out and say 0, right? Is that a 1/2 ounce?
Yeah.
You're not submarining me, are you? Okay. So So it says okay, right? Now, here's the dumb part. Why doesn't it say okay, okay? Because I only needed 1 weight, right? If I needed 2 weights, it would have said okay and okay. That's how smart we are. Because I found a single weight solution, it doesn't even bother to throw up the second okay, because I only put on, I might confuse people. Because I put on 1 weight, but it says okay and okay, but I didn't do okay. So it just says okay. So you guys noticed that. I hadn't talked about this yet. The load roller can put up to 1,300 pounds of force on the tire because I literally have to deflect the sidewall so that I can measure the stiffness of the sidewall for something that is called road force. Road force shows up as a static imbalance, which is why a lot of you guys that worked at a tire shop, you would balance the tires, the customer would go out and drive it, and then call you all sorts of wonderful, colorful metaphors because their tires still bounced up and down. Discount Tire is famous for this. They balance tires and they only road force them if the customer comes back with a complaint. Well, by then it's too late because some people will never come back. They'll just go somewhere else. Or some people will come back, but they will tell every single person they meet that it took 2 times, and then they charge you more to road force the tires because it takes longer to road force tires. Right?
Can't believe
So-
they don't road force your tires. I mean,
Yeah,
road force
right.
is cheap,
I know. Right?
Here next time.
Right? So then but again, when you have 1 out of every 4 tires on the road being sold through Discount Tire, you can do that. They sell a lot of tires. All right, so what I'm doing is, and I'm speeding through this, but that's all right. You guys listen fast. I'm looking for the stiff spot of the sidewall. I'm also measuring the barrel of the rim in hopes that the rim isn't round. I'm hoping for a little flat spot in the rim so that I can move the springy part to the flat spot. I can't eliminate how much the spring tension is in the sidewall, but I can lower it by putting it into a little bit of a concave part of the rim. Right? And then by doing that, I effectively overall lower how much the tire is springy. I'm sure everyone has seen the old Oldsmobile going down the road and the front tires are bouncing up and down going like this. Theoretically, that's a bad shock because the thing's just bouncing up and down, but that is also a perfect representation of what road force does. Every time the hard spot of the tire comes in contact with the ground, it's like bouncing a basketball. And when that really super stiff spot comes in contact with the ground, it causes the tire to bounce up or rebound up into the car harder, which is why people still think it's a static imbalance because the tire's still moving up and down. Now, unfortunately, this tire here has good road force, and unfortunately, that tire over there has good road force, okay? If we can find a tire that's in here, these springs will actually light up either yellow or red. And believe it or not, when you touch the tire, it's actually going to turn. And every time the red spring hits the ground, that tire is actually going to bounce into the air. Because really, we have really cool people writing really cool things for the balancer. Okay? So what we're going to do, which way is this spin? This spins the right way. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to rotate this to this. Okay. This is a salesman's demo tool. Salesmen buy this. Salesmen buys this when they come through sales as this class. All right. So so this is a tool and it's great. Okay. I'm going to hold this and you're going to watch and you're going to my wrist here. So I'm going to try to hold it like this and you're going to watch and the tires bouncing like mad and you can see everything here moving up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on the counterweight. To counterweight this tire. Now watch right here. Smooth as glass. Look at that. That thing's balanced.
And it's still spinning. Are you doing that?
I am not doing a thing. But it's balanced. But this shows you road force. Because if you don't have a road force balancer, I can balance this tire 9 times and the tire balance, it'd be really good if the tire changer told me it was balanced. The tire balancer is going to keep coming back and telling me that the tire is balanced because that's the limit of what the balancer can do. You have to have a diagnostic tool to figure out where the stiff spot of the sidewall is. So then what happens is you bring this to a road force balancer and you take the tire and you spin the tire on the rim so that the stiff spot of the tire is in the low spot of the rim. And now not only is the tire balanced, but it also doesn't have a lot of road force so that the tire seems like it's going smoother down the road.
Is that part of the salesman toolkit?
It is. Yeah. You can buy one of these. They're only like $45. You can actually get it through the merchandising store. So where you ordered your business cards, go to.
Is that a Calton that you're saying? It looks like the Calton that goes on the
No, it's literally it has the same shape of it, but
I just didn't know like if it screwed into the end of the Calton.
no, it's its own. It's because there's. So what I'm not showing you, it's almost like sleight of hand. You have to pull the wheel away, and when you pull the wheel away, if you turn this clockwise, because if you turn it clockwise, it just unscrews. So if you take this and you turn it clockwise 180 degrees, there's like a detent, and when you get to the detent, now I got to turn it because I turned it too much. Oh, and I got to turn it all the way around. Hey. So when I turn it back around again, that detent, which is 180 degrees from the line, makes it turn just terrible, right? And then when I pick this up and I go the other, so I have to move it away and I have to get it around the detent and then I can feel it fall back into the detent. And then when I do that, it spins nice and smooth. You actually, there's a service bulletin, you pay $15 a hockey puck and they're yours. We'll ship them right to your house. We didn't do, up until 2 years ago, you couldn't buy hockey pucks. They were verboten. We made them, but we wouldn't sell them to you. And now, since about 2 years ago, we actually came out with a service bulletin. You can actually buy the hockey pucks.
So what would happen if our customers don't buy road?
Well, then they can't fix half the problem, right? You can balance. If you notice that my arm was perfectly still, and that thing spun forever because it was balanced. But they're still going to complain that the tire moves up and down because the tire's still moving up and down. I'm sorry?
Even if they use all other balances.
Yeah, so that balancer there doesn't have a load roller on it. That balancer. So these 3 balancers can't fix road force, which is why a Smart Weight Elite balancer costs about $8,000, and a road force Elite balancer is around 16 to 18.
Makes sense too.
Right.
That's the most dynamic force I see.
Right. So that's and some people, a lot of people, I'm going to tell you 90% of the people you meet will still use the word dynamic because, you know, it's been since the 40s it's been called dynamic. If you go old enough into our stuff, we call it, because we didn't go redub our stuff. So that's actually for a wheel lift, to make the wheel lift level.
We thought it was for like the mini balance you can buy at the
Yeah.
station.
No, so because remember when I told you guys out there, don't put the screws down. Technically, so this gets a little technical. You have to take the screws and put the screws halfway down so that the screw goes through there to hold it, but it doesn't stick all the way down to still scratch the ground. And it's just a pain in the butt. So I just don't put any screws on it whatsoever, and they just lay on the ground. And that way, every time we move it, we have to take the wheel lift off because it's painful. Okay, it's hurtful. So road force, road. That's why. So we sell balancers that don't do road force because we know not everyone wants to buy an $18,000 balancer. Right? Some people just don't have it in the budget. So we make more affordable balancers for the salespeople in the group. It's called a pain point. How much pain can you endure? The more pain you can endure, the less money you have to spend. I wonder if David wanted something or if he just poked his head in. He didn't really say anything.
He just likes watching.
It's fine. Well, I was talking salesy stuff, so he wanted to make sure I was representing. So again, it's a pain point. Do you want to have half the diagnostic capabilities? Then fine. You may be able to buy a SmartWeight Elite, but you're not going to be able to fix all of your customers' problems. The dealer has to have them. Yeah, it's on all the OEM mandatory tool lists because it takes care of customer complaints about vibration. Where was I going with that? But you can always turn it off. Like I turned it off, right? By just putting that little X up there, I got rid of 10 grand, but I got rid of half the machine, right? But it's faster. Because if you don't have time to do it right, you have time to do it the second time for free. So, but that's why a lot of people turn it off. And we've been preaching road force since 1997, right? 97, 98. Who remembers way back in the day when Ask Jeeves? You could actually go out to gsp9700.com. and type in your address, and it would tell you who had the closest road force balancer to where you physically lived. Now, if you type in www.gsp9700.com, it just redirects you to the Hunter website. We didn't get rid of it, we just don't use it because now everyone has one. I worked at a dealership. We were the first people to have a road force balancer. I worked on every other make and model car except the car that we sold, because people put it in the map, and it said go to my dealership. And when I was balancing tires and wheels for people, it was crazy. The cars it was crazy because people wanted a smooth ride. However, we got in trouble. We didn't quite understand what we were saying, and we made the tire manufacturers very mad. You cannot say, we learned this the hard way, you cannot say that is a bad tire, because we would say, oh, we got 4 more bad tires, we need 4 more. So then you'd wheel in 4 more tires, and then one of those 4 was a bad tire. I got a 5th bad tire. We were going through, it was like chewable vitamins. We were going through tires so fast, okay? The tire manufacturers, they would get the tires sent back to them. They would put it on their tug machine or something. Uniformity, TUG actually stands for something, whatever it stands for. Some type of universal uniformity, gravitational something. And they would put it on their $1 million tug machines and say that there is nothing wrong with the tire. So now what we have to say is we have to say that the tire is a poor fit. Somewhere out in the world, there is a rim that you could put that tire on and it would have low enough road force that it wouldn't hop. Unfortunately, you don't own any of those 4 rims. So we have to tell you it's a poor fit for your set of rims. The end result is you're still buying 4 tires, but you can't turn them in warranty and send them back to General, because General didn't make a bad tire. It's just you bought tires that were a poor fit for your rims, and then we don't get sued. Thank you very much. So it is a poor fit. Okay, again, so the tire manufacturers. Yeah. So believe it or not, Pirelli Tire North America is in Rome, Georgia. I had their headquarters in Rome. You'd never know when you passed by it. It was way off the road. Love that place. I got to go into the R&D side. Oh, good times. But yeah, they actually every day they would get a whole entire tanker of liquid nitrogen, because the liquid nitrogen had to cool the tug machines, keep the bearings and the tug machines cool, because they were actually making tires there, right? It was, yeah. Well, at some point, it might have not been a bad alternative, but the dude was all dressed up. He was wearing his PPP, right? Because it could eliminate you. Where he was transferring it, there was all this ice on it. The tank had all ice on it. It was evaporating in the mid-afternoon sun in Rome, Georgia. Lots of liquid nitrogen. Oh, lots of liquid nitrogen.
Back in Caribbean and South America, the Chinese are taking all the tires. Chinese have about
Yeah.
maybe, I don't know, 500 different brands of tires now.
So yeah, like Kenda, Sportman, yeah.
But
yeah, a good rule is if it sounds like it could be a panda at the Beijing Zoo.
are those tires good?
No, they're horrible.
But everybody uses them.
Well, that's because you probably can't go fast enough to feel the road force, or the roads are bad enough you don't know it's the road force. You think it's just the road. BF Goodrich used to be made here. Now they're made in China. Someone else is now made in China. Michelin owns BF Goodrich, and Michelin moved over to China. Michelin, your dad, my dad, you get anyone with a Cadillac, I want me a set of them good Michelin tires, because back in the day when my dad was my age, Michelin tires were like, that was the high watermark. You got a set of, now you paid $200 a piece for them, but you got a good set of riding tires. You get a Michelin tire now, it's made by the Communist Brotherhood that sells the other 500 sets of tires that he has to deal with.
So difficult to do a Michelin tire thing. There's so much paperwork.
Yeah.
Isn't Falcon like one of the only left to use?
I don't know, but I like Falcon tires. I have a set of Falcon tires, and they ride really well. I like Falcon tires. Yeah.
Firestone Bridgestone, maybe like 6 months ago, they came out with a 90-day test drive.
Oh well.
They say, I don't like the shade of black, and that's good enough for them. You can take them back in 90 days and put you on another. So you pay $800, give you another $800 to purchase another Bridgestone or Firestone. You can say, you know what, they don't smell right, and they'll give you another set of tires. That's why. Yeah. Smell right.
BF Goodrich still puts the thing in there for the burnout people or the drifting people, right? You can get a red stripe or a yellow stripe or a pink, and then when you did your burnout, the smoke would actually turn different colors. Yeah.
Is it Japanese make good tires?
Toyo is a good tire. Believe it or not, Toyo has a tire manufacturing place right side out of Clarksville, Tennessee. I pass it every time I go to Atlanta. I don't know that. Yeah, Mastercraft.
Made in Philly, Ohio. Everything's made in Ohio.
Really? Okay. You know what the problem with Mastercraft? It sounds like a bass boat. I'm not buying something that sounds like a bass boat, right? It sounds terrible. I would love to be David Henry, that guy who just poked his head in here last, could probably answer your question, but I cannot. Again, he has good questions. I don't know if Toyo and Nitto, but I know there's so all of the tires you're buying here are actually made in Clarksville, Tennessee. Just north of Nashville on I-24. If you're going north, be on the right. Big blue building. Wonderful building.
I think they make up Broncos Sumitomo as well. I don't know if you guys have that in America.
Broncos?
Sumitomo.
Sumitomo? Yeah, Sumitomo. Yeah, we have Sumitomo. Sumitomos are made just off the highway below Atlanta in, I forget where that is. Anyway, we had a Sumitomo manufacturing plant in just below, it's on 85, just below the airport. Dang it all. Anyway, we had a Sumitomo manufacturing plant in Atlanta. There's a Sumitomo.
So Sumitomo have a ladder up in the US or something like that?
Yeah.
Thompson's still made in the US.
Mickey Thompson, yeah, that makes sense. Big old mud swampers, yeah.
Typhoon International.
Oh,
Cooper and Goodyear.
So what type of security system have the bike for this?
Never mind.
Because it's
security system.
it's very expensive. Have anybody ever got their road for stolen? I just did.
So, well, we're running the Linux operating system, and what we do on our thumb drives is we leave the first sector open, so you can't copy the program drive.
I would say because it's too expensive. Have your shop recorded their road for stolen?
Jaden here won't listen to anything else I say unless I show him how to balance a motorcycle tire. So we're going to balance a motorcycle tire. I think it's that one. I don't know. Is it that one or that one? It might be that one. I think this one's too, I think the middle's too big. All right, so I think we need that. Does that have the smaller axle? That looks like it has a smaller axle in it.
Yeah.
All right, is there someone's putting frickin' sticky weights on it again. Did they throw my saddle weight out again? They keep throwing out my 3/4 ounce saddle weight. Oh, I'm sorry. So, saddle, my saddle weights. Okay, someone loves me enough to give me saddle weights. There's no saddle weight on that one? Is that 3/4 of an ounce? Was that 3/4 of an ounce? What is that? Half ounce? Yeah, we'll take it off. All right. Okay. So put that down for a second, because we're just going to be a minute. All right. So all of our balancers, the spindle is a one-piece spindle, so you can't take the threaded part of the spindle off. Okay. Theoretically, the auto clamps is a two-piece spindle, but the auto clamp only comes on a road force type balancer, so you're not going to spend an extra 10 grand to get the two-piece spindle so that you can't use the load roller because of the way we grab the tire. So that was the last balancer. That traditional balancer was the last balancer that had a two-piece spindle so you could balance a motorcycle wheel. So this balancer here is the whole entire reason why we came up with the SmartWeight Pro, is so that we could have a two-piece spindle so we could balance motorcycle tires. So you're going to spend, you're not going to get the hood because you don't need the outer camera. It only spins at 150 RPM. So you're going to spend around $4,500 for the balancer. And then you're going to spend another $1,800 to get the Hawika, which is German. Some people pronounce it Hawika, some people pronounce it Hayawika, and some people pronounce it Havika.
There's no V.
The W is a V. So, pick a name, stick with it. But this is called the Pro Bike Kit. Okay, so the Pro Bike Kit, what we do is we have to put on a different spindle. So, you're going to grab this guy here. So you're going to take this guy. All right, so we have to, so obviously we're going to take that off. So take this, so if you notice it's that hole and that hole, you can see that. So what we have to do is we have to put this on here. And because this Pro Bike Kit fits about 8 different balancers, we have to figure out which one of these bolt holes fits back in here. So I'm going to run right in front of you here. Do I have the bolts? Where's the bolts? I don't have any bolts, no bolts, no bolts, no bolts, no bolts. Nope, I need inverted Allen head bolts. Nope, you come back over this way because I'm gonna go. Yeah, that one. Do you have another one? Fantastic. So you're gonna figure out which two holes, and you're gonna put them in from the backside. Okay, and then it's pretty sure it's this Allen. Let's see. So I'd say pull it away a little bit. Okay, and then you can cheat because again, it's what is it? Is it that one that got the round on it, and that one's got the round on it? See how you can see the imprint?
Mhm.
So shoot for that one. Okay. Havika. Does that fit? Okay. So hopefully it's that Allen wrench. Double check that Allen on that Allen wrench. We put it on there. I got to find a different one. Bigger?
Yep.
Okay. You keep tightening. See if we can find another Allen. It doesn't help me. I'm sorry? Might be silver. Too big. We didn't lose anybody to a fameless, foibleless, nothing? Okay. That's why it's going to spin really slow. So, all right. So then we have to pick a shaft. So we have a thin shaft and a two different diameters. We have a thin shaft and a big shaft. Usually, if you have like a Harley or something like that, the bearings are bigger and you need the bigger shaft. Okay. So we have this guy here, and if you notice, this guy has like a snap ring. There's just a snap ring on it. So this guy's going to go inside of here, and that's going to be held on with that little bitty snap ring. If that gives you any sort of hope whatsoever, that's going to go in there, and this is going to go on here. You can use that guy there. The spanner wrench, you can just put the spanner wrench on and just tappy. All right, that's plenty. All right, so we have extra weight on the balancer, so we have to compensate for the weight. So of course the engineering team came up with compensated tooling. I don't know why English is so difficult for them, but evidently if you're an engineer, you can stand up just for a second. Evidently if you're an engineer, English is difficult. So touch the screen. You owe me $1, $2, $3, $4, $5,
Right now, I agree.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. It's not a touch screen.
Oh.
For $4,500, we can't give you all the features of an $8,000 balancer. So one of the things we do is we make the balancer touch screen. It's just a regular screen. That's why we give you the input. All right, this is the input knob. So also if you notice, that way if you notice, no matter what I'm doing, all right, I can go into here and I can go all that. All right, so I'm turning that back on. All right, so I have to go to tools. So every time I enter, I have to push inward. All right, whoever I don't like in the next couple of days is going to have to type in the word Hiko service with that dial. So if you want pain on a level that rivals kidney stones, okay. So we're going to go to tools. We're going to go to advanced. We're going to go to more. And then there's something called compensate tooling, because again, it's engineering. So we're going to push the button. We're going to lower the hood. All right. Now take that and move it down to here. Now push the button. So what's going to, if you notice, it's spun real fast, but now it's spinning a lot slower, right? Because it has to figure out how much it weighs, and then it has to figure out what a good speed for it is, okay? So this is going to take a second or two. And now if you noticed on the screen, it says tooling compensated, because what we did is we now know technically this is balanced, but it has weight. So we have to negate how much it weighs so that we're not telling the tire that the tire weighs more than the tire. Otherwise, we'll put the wrong weight on it. We're basically balancing the tooling and the tire. And when you take the tire off, now the tire is going to be imbalanced because even though it's balanced, it's still heavy. Right. Yeah. Right. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to pick this guy up and we're going to pick this guy up. I need to find some stuff. Is it all over there? Is there some universal stuff over there? Or no? Put that tire up here for me. All right. One of these should fit in the front. They look the same. One of those should fit in the front. And then which one fits in the back? I hate when people mess with my stuff. Do any of these fit? I need one of these to, yeah, that's just going to center. Okay. Flip it around. Is there a thing in there already? There is not. Okay, so what I need is something that goes in there that fits. And that doesn't fit. So I need, what do I need? Hey! Opa! Okay, I think it's this one because it has all the wear on it. Does that one fit in there nicely? It almost fit. Does that one fit?
I think you're bottoming out.
Turn me around. It should go all the way in. Okay. There we go. All right. So that's going to go on first. That other side's going to go on second. Okay. Now my other problem is does that actually stick through or does that sit all the way in? That's all right. Okay. So then what I'm going to need, yeah, it goes on tight. Fine. Try this one. Try this one. Maybe. Better? Okay. All right. All right. So what I still need I still need a wing nut.
Real quick.
Huh?
Me, Justin, and Dave will be offsite for lunch. I know. I'm not going to tell you where we're going to go.
Oh, you're going to the sub place. All right. Good. I'm good. I gotta stay. I'm getting Cracker Barrel. So, all right.
Away my lunch.
Enjoy.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
there's one. You have two
2.
lunches.
Yeah, because if he's going and David's going, I have 2 lunches. I already have 3 lunches for your guys. The Bosch guys?
Yeah.
I already got lunches for them. Now I have 2 extra lunches. So if they brought their wives, anyway.
Okay. Where are they?
It's Cracker Barrel, so it's going to be in the lunchroom.
It's not chicken, is it?
He's getting chicken. You can get hamburgers or meatloaf, but he has to get chicken because he only eats chicken. All right, I need a wing nut. So the other thing with this wing nut is there's a red piece and a black piece. If you hold the red piece and twist the black piece, I can tighten stuff up because if you notice it's on a thread. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put this on. And if you notice, it won't pull off until I use the little doohickey here. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a little love. I'm just going to snug it up a little bit because I just have to snug it up a little bit. All right, now here's the thing. I am on the bearings. So guess what happens? It still spins, which is why I need these guys. And these guys hold the tire. These guys hold the tire in the shaft because otherwise I'll never know where top dead center is because the shaft's going to stop turning and the wheel's going to keep spinning. And that's bad. Okay, so now that my tire and everything is mounted exactly like I need it mounted, and I don't see any of my saddle weights on here, we're going to have to play a little fast and loose with some physics. So I'm going to stand right here. So you're going to stand, you want to get around, up over here. All right, so I run into a limitation. Because I'm used to measuring the rim between here and here, and now my rim is way out here, I run into a limitation on where my camera can see from my laser, okay? So my laser's telling me, if I turn, this is all manual, if I turn my laser and I want to balance this thing statically because on a motorcycle tire it's not big enough to do anything dynamic or couple, if I try to put it there and I hit the button, it paused and then it errored, because that's what an error sounds like on a SmartWeight Pro. So it didn't actually take anything, okay? So what I need to do is, most people would try to put it right here because that's where you're going to put the weight, right? I'll put it there, and if I touch, it took it, okay? Now, what's cool is I'm only statically balancing this tire. So as long as I tell it how big the diameter of the rim is, doesn't matter again where I put the weight, because I'm only doing up and down. I'm not doing left and right. This is where a lot of people get confused. The balancer is asking me for the outer plane. I can't give it an outer plane. If I give it an outer plane, it's going to ask for 438 million pounds of weight. So the other thing that you have to be smart enough to do right here is nothing, and lower the hood. I gave it one input. Technically, I gave it two inputs. How far the tire is away from the balancer, how big the diameter of the balancer is. So how big the diameter of the rim is, okay? Now it's asking me for a 1/2 ounce weight. So hopefully they didn't. Someone who actually went to a motorcycle shop actually brought back weights for me. I think that might be a 1/2 ounce. That's 30 grams. What is this? Does this say anything? That feels heavy. We're going to use this one. I don't know if what this weighs or not. This is called a saddlebag weight. It looks like if anyone's ever had a horse or a mule, right? You have saddlebags on a mule because they go on each side of the tire. Because if you're leaning the motorcycle and you have a sticky weight and the sticky weight's pointing up, guess where the sticky weight goes? It goes up. Yeah, so you lose it. So this actually grips onto the middle of the tire rim in a saddlebag configuration. Now, if you notice, it tells me I need to put it at the top. So I'm going to put it at the top. And I'm going to try to put it right here at the top. All right. Hopefully I got it close enough. We're going to lower the hood to do a check spin.
It says okay, okay.
So this is a smart one. Oh, smart one.
You're amazing.
Smart weight.
All right. It was smart weight. So, yes, it did tell me okay, okay, even though because when I spun it, it actually brought up a 1/2 ounce and 0, because it wasn't doing anything for couple or dynamic. It was only doing static, okay? And thankfully it was a 1/2 ounce, and thankfully I put it in the right spot. I'm glad you guys are here. The next sales class is probably going to do something stupid, like throw away my saddlebag weight. Annoys me. So, a lot. So that's how you balance a motorcycle tire. If you guys have ever done it, yeah, it's just a 3/8 extension. You put the wheel on, you wait for the heavy spot. You either move the individual. It's almost like a bike where you make this one's longer and this one's shorter, because you have to change the spoke. You have to change the spokes to make the wheel move up or down so that the wheel is equidistant from the axle. Right, so at that point, actually this one's tighter and that one's longer because you have to pick it up, because that's why it's the heavy spot, because it's elliptical. And then, you have to spin it and you have to wait for it to stop again, and you adjust it. And it takes like 40 minutes or a 1/2 hour per tire. Or if you do it this way, and you know the cheat code on how to measure the rim, because again, we run into a limitation on how far our camera can see the dot. The dot works, the dot's blinking, the camera can't pick up where the dot is because the camera has a fixed aperture as to where it's looking. Okay? So, usually there's one guy in every group. Meet your guy. I don't know of anyone who... My brother actually has one of these at a motorcycle shop. He wouldn't listen to me for 3 solid months, so he couldn't make it work for 3 solid months, and then he finally gave up and listened to me, and it's worked fine ever since. I love my brother.
Is that bracket made on there? Not sure what the
Well, we're not using the outside laser, right? So that's why, I mean, at this point, if you sell him the hood, you're almost wasting the guy's money, right? Because he's not using that to measure
I mean,
anything.
that laser, when it comes down and goes like this, and it blocks the laser.
Well, we have cameras, and on road force balancers, we have optical profilers, which is a fancy word for camera. Yes, ma'am. Hey. So, back to this. Anyway, now that you know the cheat code and how to make the actual balancer work, because if you take it out of smart weight, it has to have 2 planes. If you do anything else but not leave it in smart weight, and then you try to measure it in the same spot, it doesn't work. Okay, so since Kelly is now dying because she needs lunch, it's 12:01. We're going to go to lunch. And then most people, when they do a motorcycle tire, they just leave it set up all the time. Oh, cameras. We have cameras or optical profilers. An optical profiler is a really fancy word to mean a camera, but it does different things. This laser here shoots out a laser dot, and the camera takes a picture of the laser. On a road force machine, the laser shoots out an array. There's lots of dots and lots of dashes and lots of beeps and lots of boops. The camera is responsible for picking up every single one of those dots, beeps, and boops. And what we're doing is we're actually measuring the profile of the barrel. This doesn't do that. This only gives us a distance. It doesn't actually profile anything.
So the camera actually looks at the laser where it's pointed.
Yes, so all that camera is doing is it's taking a picture of that dot, and then we microscopically measure the diameter of that dot and whether it's a dot or an oval. Because if it's closer to me, it's going to be like the leading edge of the oval is going to be small. If it's a dot that's leaning away from me, that edge of the oval is going to be longer, right? And somehow I have to figure all that out on that one while it's spinning at 300 RPM. I have to take 28 to 30 good images of those dots, and then I fill in the rest when and that way I can profile the rim, and that way I can do really cool things with the weight. Okay? All right, so let's go save Kelly.